Theresa Harrison, and I'm excited to be here. So do I just start whenever? Okay, awesome. So again, good morning everyone. Thank you to the Division of Access, Opportunity, and Community Engagement for inviting me to present today, and thank you all for joining this presentation. The prompt I was given was to share a vision and strategy for community engagement at the University of South Carolina. And I hope that by the time I finish this presentation, you know more about me and my passion for community engagement. But I also hope you leave excited to collaborate in this work to bring national prominence to our institution through our community engagement efforts. So I know that my CV is provided online, so I'd encourage each of you, if you're interested in learning more about me or my educational background, research, and various university leadership roles, to look through that document. Because I want to use my time here to really tell you a little bit more about me and why South Carolina is the place where I want to do this work. So while I was born and raised in Tennessee, I've always had a strong connection and affinity for the state of South Carolina. Both of my parents were raised in South Carolina. Most of my extended family still lives in South Carolina. My mom's family is from Greenwood in the upstate, and my dad's family is from the Midlands in Orangeburg. So I spent a lot of time, yes, I spent a lot of holidays and summers growing up in South Carolina. My sister also moved to Columbia about 3 years ago and now works at USC in the student health and well-being as the assistant lab manager. So my first postgraduate job was also here at USC, serving as the Community Service Programs Coordinator, where among other things I was responsible for leading large-scale direct service projects and alternative break trips like this one to Hurricane Sandy relief efforts. So I included pictures of my time serving across these various leadership roles because I truly loved my time engaging students in service. My next leadership role was serving as the assistant principal of the Capstone Scholars Program, where among other responsibilities, I taught University 101 classes and co-led international service learning trips, like this one focused on social justice to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I then served as assistant director with USC Connect, now known as the Center for Integrative and Experiential Learning, where one of the 5 graduation with leadership distinction pathways is community service. I went on to serve as the project manager for the Carolina Family Engagement Center, which was a 5-year, nearly $5 million grant-funded program from the U.S. Department of Education, where one of my primary responsibilities was to coordinate quarterly statewide community partner meetings. I currently serve as a research assistant scientist with the Research Evaluation and Measurement Center in the College of Education, where I do program evaluation for several statewide community partners like the Columbia Urban League and South Carolina First Steps. So as you all have heard, all of these leadership positions that I've held at the university have incorporated community engagement in some way. And that was intentional on my part. I wanted to make sure that I had a breadth of experiences related to community engagement by serving in different contexts and with various populations, as well as a depth of experiences by really thinking about service from service learning pedagogy and service in international settings to experiential learning and building reciprocal community partnerships. Additionally, these leadership experiences have also helped me see the importance of making data-driven and informed decisions in my work, as you'll see throughout my presentation. If anyone has tried to develop a vision statement, you know it is a pretty intensive process. You want it to be specific to your organization, but not too specific, and general enough to be future-oriented to incorporate any potential influences on the work, but not too general that it could apply to any organization. So I took my lead from the executive director for community engagement job description and some of the aspects the division articulated as being important, but also what I found to be some of the most important aspects of community engagement work for me and where I would like to lead USC's community engagement efforts. Ultimately, I want to develop deep, reciprocal, and impactful relationships between the university and our statewide community to propel USC to be one of the nation's leading community-engaged institutions. I believe part of building a national reputation for community engagement work is continuing to achieve Carnegie and APLU community engagement classifications. Additionally, seeking out other networks in which to achieve recognition I've listed some of those additional networks that provide exceptional institutional member benefits like professional development, webinars, resources like pre-developed syllabi, and lesson plans, and that give out awards and small grants here at the bottom of this slide and on the next slide. So one of the things I was interested in looking at was how the networks our universities are a part of impact the level of recognition that we might receive. So while we have peer and aspirant institutions, which we tend to look at for comparisons across academic programs and other initiatives, I chose to look at our fellow SEC institutions because they are located in the same southern region. Many of them are similarly situated as the flagship institution in a major urban area, but are also surrounded by and serve large swaths of rural populations. So I looked at some of the major national community engagement higher education networks that are listed in blue across the top, and identified which of the SEC institutions are members of these organizations. And as you'll notice, both Auburn University and the University of Missouri down here are heavily involved in these networks. And both Auburn and the University of Georgia have recently hosted the Gulf South Summit, which is a national community engagement conference. On average, most of the SEC schools are in at least 3 of these national networks. And I don't mean to imply that simply by being involved in more of these national networks, you're going to win more awards. But I did want to point out that networking and involvement is important because a lot of these networks have institutional member benefits that universities can take advantage of by being a part of them. Whether that's being a part of a national task force, collaborating on interinstitutional grant proposals, or large-scale research studies. However, both Auburn and Georgia, I just want to point out, have recently had staff and programs recognized by several of these national networks. So as I laid out my vision and strategy to make the University of South Carolina into a premier community engaged institution, I reflected on the prompt that was provided, and today I'm presenting my ideal strategies for moving this work forward. I realize that everything I'm presenting may not be fiscally feasible based on the budget of this office. However, budget considerations were not a constraint given the prompt. So regardless of whether these strategies are fiscally feasible now, I hope that you will see the potential long-term impact and benefit of investing in these strategies for community engagement. I believe it goes without saying that if I'm fortunate to be selected for this position, I would want to host stakeholder meetings with anyone interested in collaborating with this office. So I broke the remainder of this presentation down strategically into how I thought about institutionalizing and promoting community engagement efforts with faculty, staff, students, and community members. Because we all have different priorities and challenges in doing this work, and it's important to understand those nuances in order to effectively meet your needs. It's crucial for this work that I listen collectively to what everyone has to say and integrate those ideas into how this office can best assist you and take that insight into consideration in terms of the goals that we have for our work together. I have had experience leading numerous statewide stakeholder meetings with community partners. In some instances, that work spanned over a year, and in other groups, I've used an equity action lab model drawn from quality improvement and psychology of change that's really structured to galvanize multiple stakeholders around a complex issue and move that work toward action in what is referred to as a 100-day sprint. So really, I do not believe that it's for me or solely this office to decide what the focus of USC's community engagement efforts will be. As I reviewed USC's strategic 2020 plan, I noticed obviously the emphasis on the health sciences. We're investing a lot of resources in our new health science campus. There was also several mentions throughout the document of wanting to have a community impact, so I can presume that an area of interest may be around health, but it's important to hear that from you and the community. Relating this back to developing USC into a nationally engaged institution, if you were to ask most community engagement scholars, name an institution with a strong K-12 initiative, most would say the University of Pennsylvania. Or if you were to ask about rural engagement, the University of Georgia. We need to also identify 2 to 3 focus areas and uplift that work to the national level. This doesn't negate other community engagement efforts, but I believe it would be beneficial to focus on specific priority areas that align with university leadership priorities so that we become known for our engagement in those areas. And again, I'm just gonna always keep going back to assessment. I believe this overall process should also include conducting a community engagement audit of our institution, and dependent on our resources, mapping where we are engaged in projects and the focus of that work. For example, is our work clustered around health or education-related initiatives, and determine where there are gaps in who and where we are serving. So the first point on here that I want to make sure I emphasize is that when I refer to faculty, I mean all faculty. So not just tenure and professional track, but adjuncts, visiting professors, and our lecturers. I want to make sure that when we talk about engaging faculty, we mean investing resources and supports for all types of faculty members, because you're all engaged in this work. One of the first strategies I would bring back to our institution is investing in the statewide education and networking of junior faculty and staff members by reinstituting the statewide bus tour. I believe this effort could be done in partnership with the Office of Research, Office of Economic Engagement, and/or the Career Center. Now, whenever an initiative gets disbanded, we have to ask why. Is it due to it being cost prohibitive, lack of participation, all legitimate questions. However, I will say from personal experience, as one of the first participants on the first ever bus tour offered at USC through the Coordinating Office of Community Engagement and Service in 2011-12, it was an eye-opening and a career solidifying experience for me. The opportunity to network with faculty and staff across the institution as we traversed across the state to learn about the history, industry, and research investments of the university in different areas was really awe-inspiring. As I was putting this presentation together, I couldn't help but reflect on being that young professional and how excited she would be imagining that almost 15 years later that she could be applying for this position of the executive director that led this initiative for me, and so I think that's pretty cool. My next point on here is that I would like to support more domestic field-based experiences that are interdisciplinary and experiential learning focused by providing competitive seed grants to encourage faculty to work across disciplines to create innovative courses that meet community needs. This was something that has been particularly successful at Ohio State University, and I could see this office partnering with my former office, SEAL, Center for Integrative and Experiential Learning, to maximize the impact of these courses. Next, in terms of the intersection of research and community engagement, I'm sure many of you realize funders like NIH and NSF expect proposals to have broader impact statements, but there is also a growing interest from other funding sources like Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for research to really incorporate community members in the research design of projects. And I know that USC's Office of Research does a great job supporting faculty in crafting these statements, but I also see this as being a joint effort in terms of this office assisting faculty working on community-based research or wanting to use participatory approaches, and how they can outreach to community partners to work alongside them as co-researchers. But also best reflect this type of methodological approaches in their proposals so that it not only reads authentically, but we're committed to doing that work and have the skills to do so effectively. This relates to the next point of this office, providing expertise in evaluating community engagement scholarship for tenure and promotion. If a particular department has not traditionally valued community engagement scholarship or is just now getting on board, it may be hard to know how to evaluate community engagement competitively against other types of scholarship. So I would want our office to be able to provide support in this area. Finally, to bring national prominence to our institution's community engagement work, we need to constantly share our stories. We need to promote USC's engaged scholars via nationally broadcast webinars to get their work out to national audiences. We should also actively be inviting engaged scholars from other institutions here to inspire our work and provide customized workshops by discipline on community engaged scholarship. As someone who has served as a staff member in various capacities, but only in a community engagement office in my very first role at USC, I have thought a lot about the role of community engaged staff members. So much so that I wrote an article that will be published in the Journal of Community Engagement in Higher Education entitled Community Engagement Networks, Utilizing the Untethered. Because for much of my time outside of an official community engagement office, I was still very much invested in community engagement efforts, networking with community partners statewide, connecting students with community agencies, coordinating service projects. However, doing that work outside of the community engagement office is different. As I began digging into the community engagement and higher education literature, I realized that I wasn't the only one putting this together. Dostilio defines community engagement professionals as those individuals with administrative duties who contribute to the overall institutionalization of community engagement within an institution and who often support and guide faculty as they adopt and champion community engaged work. I believe professionals serving in these capacities is a widely untapped resource because there are administrators in every college working in centers and institutes doing this work, but largely remaining unseen even if they are part of a major grant-funded initiative. So the first thing I would like to institute is a way to recognize and connect these individuals across departments and units by creating a fellows initiative where we can further invest in their development as community engagement professionals. I would also like to create some type of affiliate status for departments and offices that have staff members who have particular skill sets or resources that can support the work of the office, so that anyone seeking to further their community engagement knowledge knows who and where to go to be connected to those resources. For example, working with the Center for Teaching Excellence to develop workshops focused on community engaged learning. Next, I believe that we have to cultivate an ethos of service on our campus and encourage it at every opportunity. So I'd like to support departments engaging in collective service projects. For instance, if you have a staff retreat coming up and you decide, hey, let's get together and do a service project together, we could work with you to find a suitable agency to work with to do that. As I mentioned before, I believe it's crucial to facilitate opportunities for people to come together and be supported in their work. And I believe creating a community of practice around community engagement is one way to do that. So this would be open to anyone interested in learning more about the field of community engagement in higher education and would be provided in various formats to meet the needs of participants. I also believe we must invest in data management software to help track community engagement efforts across campus, to not only meet the needs of our community, but also so that we can analyze and identify gaps in our outreach, but also to provide assessment reports for our work. Further, to apply for awards and grants, we need to be able to quickly put our hands on data related to our community engagement efforts, and that needs to be streamlined across a system that is institutionalized across campuses. Finally, as I've mentioned previously, part of bringing our work to national prominence is sharing our story. So working with staff to develop customized community engagement marketing campaigns related to major college efforts and getting those stories out through our website, our social media channels, and news outlets is key. So as it relates to students, many of you may not be aware, but there is a federal work study requirement that schools use 7% of our federal work study allocations to compensate students employed in community service activities. And one of those activities must be related to reading and tutoring programs or family literacy projects. However, there is no limit on the number of community service opportunities that a school can offer. So I believe providing students with the maximum number of opportunities related to their educational or career interest while also meeting community needs is mutually beneficial for our students and our community. Next, I would like to provide more opportunities for students to receive course credit for engaging with communities. I believe supporting a community-based research certificate would have broad-based appeal across various disciplines and demonstrate to future employers the students' knowledge, skills, and abilities to work effectively with communities to co-create solutions to some of society's most pressing problems. And additionally, supporting faculty to develop qualitative labs, specifically for undergraduates, but particularly as it relates to understanding participatory approaches and seeing community members as co-researchers. At the same time, providing further incentives for graduate students to pursue community-based research and seek guidance from our office in those efforts. I also also see the university working closely with the City of Columbia to offer students an opportunity to learn more about public service. This was something that I would have loved to have initiated when I was working in student life, and I had done some initial research of other universities that had similar scholar programs. So it'd be great to see something like that actually come to fruition, especially since there's a civic engagement component of this role. Further, I could see partnering with the City of Columbia on a welcome event geared towards students so that, as I would always tell my University 101 students, you're not only a member of Carolina for 4 years, you're also a member of the Columbia community, so tying that together for them. Next, I would want to make sure to support existing student service initiatives while also providing additional networking and recognition opportunities for students at the national level for their service efforts, such as the President's Volunteer Service Award. I know that it may be cost prohibitive for a single unit to support various recognition efforts, but working in collaboration with this office, I believe that we could potentially make it a reality. This recognition is important, not only for our university, but for our students, as these awards may distinguish them from other applicants seeking prestigious fellowships, scholarships, and grant opportunities. Finally, as I mentioned, civic engagement is an aspect of the executive director's role, and I could see this being a fully led student initiative of this office. While we have student government who is already engaged in some civic engagement efforts that we would want to support and keep fully autonomous, I believe there are additional programmatic elements that this office could focus on to engage our state and local government leaders. Georgetown University has a really robust student-led civics program, and of course they are in DC, but I believe any university located next to its state capital could engage in similar work. You feel the sweat just dripping down my face. I believe it's important that our office builds trust with the community, and that begins with how we interact with the community. As much as our institution is part of the City of Columbia and the state of South Carolina, so too are its members a part of the university. I would like to establish community tours where we provide opportunities for community members to come on campus and learn more about the institution. This might be done in collaboration with university ambassadors or with a new student-led group in collaboration with other community organizations like Historic Columbia. Community members also need to be able to easily navigate the massive network of colleges and departments at the university. Our office should have a community-facing portal on our website, really a one-stop shop to find opportunities to partner on various community engagement initiatives and gain access to the support and resources they might need. Perhaps a community organization is interested in soliciting volunteers for a large-scale event, but specifically wants students with a nursing background. We could help play a role in facilitating that connection. It's also important for our office's leadership as well as faculty and staff to be visible in the community. One way to do this is by hosting listening sessions for us to learn from community members about their strengths and challenges in the community, but which also provide opportunities for faculty and staff to share about their research and important educational information to communities. Next, part of building trust and providing transparency in our efforts is to engage the community by sharing information with them. Advocating for data justice by assisting communities with capturing the necessary data to make informed decisions about their own communities and treating community members as co-researchers should be a practice that we model and encourage faculty and staff when engaging in the community. We can also support the work of community organizations by offering professional development workshops on topics of interest to them. I believe we have a responsibility to educate community partners on how best to navigate the university in terms of recruiting and managing volunteers, hiring interns, or collaborating on research projects. Part of that reciprocal investment and partnership is using our resources to support professional development that helps our community partners, but also helps make the experiences for students, faculty, staff working with those community partners better as well. Finally, I would like to see a joint summit or conference where we could bring together a variety of departments that offer experiential opportunities like community engagement, research, internships, in partnership with community organizations so that we can facilitate more networks and partnerships. I believe breaking down barriers and entry into the university is part of the role in making information more accessible. So I hope I've demonstrated through this presentation a vision and strategy for community engagement that supports the work of various constituents across our university and community. However, I must also make sure it's abundantly clear that our office resources and support should also be seen and felt at our regional and Palmetto College campuses. I wanted to take a second to highlight this recent example from USC Salkehatchie right here, where they have opened a new forensic science lab. And when I saw this article featured in U of SC Today, I was honestly excited to read it because I'm a huge CSI fan. And I thought the article was going to focus more so on the types of crimes they were solving or something like that. Should have known better. But when I started reading the article, I realized it was all about community engagement. From how Salkehatchie was able to secure funding from USDA grants, along with matching funds from various community partners, to the fact that they're offering 2 free AI workshops on the Allendale campus for community members. The sessions they are providing are designed for adult learners, small business owners, job seekers, and those with limited technical experience. So this is a very recent example of community engaged work in action. This is one of many examples of community engagement happening on behalf of our regional campuses. Many of our faculty and staff are leading rural engagement initiatives, so finding a way to tell that as a cohesive story, I believe, really matters. And I also believe that place matters. That USC's regional campuses, as an extension of the flagship university, we collectively have a profound opportunity to use our placement across the state to truly transform communities. I have worked at USC long enough to know that there's incredible community engagement work taking place across every academic discipline, from music and engineering to communication and nursing, across student affairs departments, whether it's through the Leadership and Service Center, the Career Center, or the numerous living learning communities, and through our student organizations like Dance Marathon. We are doing good work, and that community engaged work needs to be lifted up and recognized across our state and national circles. So in conclusion, I hope that by laying out strategies to align university leadership priorities for community engagement, by bringing together key stakeholders such as faculty, staff, students, and community members to determine what our focus areas will be, you are able to see the vision that I have for making all facets of our institution more robust in our community engagement efforts. I want to leave you with this quote from the Carnegie Classification for Community Engagement and stress that the key elements of doing justice to this work is doing it in collaboration with community. It has to be mutually beneficial, reciprocal, and in partnership. And for anyone out there that isn't yet a believer in community engagement and the power it can have to positively transform communities, keep in mind that we also do this to enrich our own scholarship, research, creative activity, to enhance curriculum, teaching, and learning. And while we know research is the driving engine of a Research One institution, and that as an educational institution, our duty is to teach, service is what puts what we do in the labs and in the classroom into action for the benefit of society. Because ultimately, we want to prepare educated, engaged citizens, strengthen democratic values and civic responsibility, address critical societal issues, and contribute to the public good. And I know that together we can bring this vision into reality at the University of South Carolina. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing your questions.